Oh,
Been long overdue.
yeah, very much so. Very much so. Are you been are you wearing those glasses regularly now, or did you just find them like in the house?
These are blue light glasses.
Okay, okay, got you.
No, you've seen my big old glasses that I have, right? The blue
Yeah,
ones.
yeah, yeah. I have seen those.
Yeah, that everybody likes to say I'm Harry Potter.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, those basically look like Harry Potter glasses, except they're clear.
These aren't even close. These are just look like Ray Bans, knockoff Ray Bans.
Oh, yeah, you're right. You're right, man. I'm
Look
not
at
gonna lie.
the shape. The
Yeah,
Harry
you're
Potter
right. Harry
ones.
Potter's is more circular, isn't it?
That's why mine doesn't even look like Harry Potter. It's got a soft oval right here, and then it does a little circle right there. But
Okay. Yeah, yeah, you're
not
right.
Harry Potter's are circular.
Yeah, his are very circular. Yeah, I forgot. Yeah, that threw me off for a second.
Yeah.
Uh, that's funny. You doing all right?
I'm doing great. How about yourself?
I'm alive and kicking, man. I'm alive and kicking.
How is Pike you?
It's good. It's good. Is that we're the you now? Uh,
Especially after what just happened to
oh,
or what MTSU just did to Miami. You guys are officially the new you.
did you see where Stockstill came out and said like they average 1.6 yards a carry? They gave us 1.5 million.
Who said that?
Stockstill, the coach, MTSU's coach, he said they averaged 1.6 yards a carry and they gave us 1.5 million.
Oh my gosh.
Shout out to Middle Tennessee State, man. That's big time.
Dude, how about all these teams, these mid-major teams going up and just
Appalachian State, and then you see what I mean? Then
Georgia Southern,
who'd they get?
Nebraska,
Nebraska. Wow. Oh well. Okay. Wow. Wow.
which ended Scott Frost,
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. That's Scott Frost era.
which is crazy to me. I think he's a good coach. He just couldn't get it off the ground.
Yeah. And then they go like 3-8 last year and lost like every game with it, like on
That's their
the last
problem. They
minute.
lost so many close games. I mean, they lost to Oklahoma by 4, maybe something like that last year. I mean, they were just in every game and
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
couldn't pull it out.
What other
So
mid
I
major teams?
personally believe, whether people believe this or not, is I think at some point it's got to click. Now, not all programs make it happen, but at some point it clicks and then moving forward. I just don't remember how long Scott Frost was there for. Was he there for 3 years, 4 years?
Yo, I think this was like his fourth year. So it may have been his fifth year.
If
He
it's
was
his,
there
then
for
I completely understand. If it was his third year, though, I'm
yeah.
like, I think that's too early to call the plug. But they gave him like a year extension or something.
Yeah, then that means he was probably
Fired him.
there for that means he was probably there for five. When did he get hired? I'm looking it up right now. 2018 to 2022. So this was year five.
Well,
Goodness gracious.
2018, 19, 20, 21, 21, 22, 22, 23. This was year 4.
Yeah, yeah. Yo, your Vols look good. Congratulations for beating
You know
Florida
what?
on beating Florida, one out of
You have never told me that.
congratulations to you. I've never told you. Well, because there hasn't been anything to congratulate you on, basically since I've known you.
I just want you to say one more time.
In terms of Tennessee football,
Congratulations on the Vols, on your Vols.
congratulations to your Tennessee Volunteers.
I really appreciate it. This has been, I don't know, 20 years in waiting. Um, it's a big moment. I can't lie to you. Tennessee did not play their best game, and we still beat the dog out of Florida, and it ended up being close down the stretch. And I was like, I just watched the Browns lose the week before. Now that I'm in Ohio, it's like, well, this is some Tennessee stuff. They get the onside kick. I'm like,
Yeah, yeah.
it's gonna happen.
Oh
But
my gosh.
that man, Josh Heupel, just knows how to coach football,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
he's got players that are bought in to play for him. The whole fan section is behind him.
yeah,
The admin's behind him. All the coaches at Tennessee right now are doing a phenomenal job. I mean,
yeah,
let's just call it as it is, right?
yeah. Well,
Basketball, men's basketball, women's basketball, baseball, and now football. I
yeah.
mean, that's big time.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna let you. Yeah, that's your moment right there. Yeah, Tennessee, the administration and the athletic side, looking good for the Vols right now. Looking good
It,
for the Vols right now.
it is. And
That's enough about that's enough about, huh?
I was looking at the schedule, right?
Yeah,
And I think those Vols might just have 2 losses by the end of it, man. And I'm gonna tell you this right now.
So hang on. So you're is this a guarantee for 10 wins?
I'm guaranteeing 9.
You're
Guaranteed.
guaranteed 9. Yeah. Okay.
In the full landscape of the season, including a bowl, yes,
Yeah.
10 wins.
Okay. Okay.
But, however, the Vols have an off week. And you're not going to like this, but what I'm about to say. Alabama should be a little worried.
Because they get it's right after the bye week, right? It's after this, right?
No. So
Is
we
it
play at LSU,
Okay.
which I think the Vols should take care of business.
Is the bye week this weekend? My fault. Is the bye week this weekend? Is y'all's bye week? Okay. All right.
And then it goes at LSU and then Bama, right?
Yeah.
Bama doesn't – I'm not going to say they have a super hard stretch.
They're getting tested. They're getting tested a little bit. And, yeah, I mean, it's not – they don't look like –
it doesn't look like the Bama passed. And I say that, then Bama gets to the Final Four every year, So, but this is what I'm looking at, okay? I'm looking at – they have Arkansas this weekend. Then they have Texas A&M the next weekend, and then they have Tennessee at Tennessee. That's a tough stretch.
Yeah.
I don't think Texas A&M is very good, but SEC plays tough.
Yeah.
Now, I will say this, though. I do not think the Vols have a living shot at beating Georgia. I don't see how – but then Kent State plays them close. Like, help me. Help me understand.
I don't know, man. I don't know.
But anyway.
It's early. All right. Well, congrats to your Vols again. That's where we're gonna shut the door on that for a little bit. Hey, you and I went on a podcast. We went on Sean Westerland, Connect with West. You and I just went on a podcast recently. I was episode 2, you were episode 4. Tell me about I listened to it. Tell me about, was it fun? Did you enjoy talking? Just tell me about it, man. And to anybody else out there who hasn't,
I know. I love talking.
I know.
Anybody on this podcast that listens or knows me as a human being knows that I love to talk.
Mm-hmm. It was
strength and weakness.
A gift and a curse.
Gift and a curse. Yeah, got to shut up sometimes. Yeah. But man, dude, it was awesome. Sean does such a phenomenal job. And he's such a down to earth human being.
Yeah.
The conversation was genuine. And it was bigger than basketball, and that's what I enjoyed the most.
Yeah.
What about you? I'm not going to get into too much depth. But
yeah, no, we don't have to. I want
obviously, I want and I've told Sean is that I hope everybody gets a chance to go and listen to him.
Yeah, I hope anybody that listens to this podcast takes a listen to Sean. Man, yeah, he's 4 episodes in. I love what he's doing, man. I like his intro music. He's got a great idea. Me and him I've talked with him on the phone 4 or 5 times. We bounced ideas off of each other, and man, he's doing a great thing. And one of the things that I probably should have said on there, but just about connecting, because that's really all he wants to do. He wants to have different people on and connect in any which way that they can. But it's amazing what can. Me and George used to talk about all the time, Nate, in college, how, and him and I had different perspectives on things. But at the end of the conversation, we always found that there was more. We had just as much in common, as we had way more much in common than you might think, just because we were able to talk and get to the bottom of things. And I think that's really what Sean is trying to do with his podcast. And anybody out there that gives us a listen, go give him a listen too, man. Because
if you give us a listen, go ahead and send us a few bucks this way and give us a living too, just like Asa said.
Oh, that's funny. That's funny. Did you see the tweet that I tweeted about that travel thing?
Yeah, controversial tweet. Controversial. All right, so this is where I'm at with it. And you tweeted it from Mind of a Coach, so I was going to let it ride. I almost commented from Nate Moran's.
I mean, I'm probably wrong, but my whole life that has been a travel, and every ref in the state of Tennessee is calling it a travel.
So this is what I've learned, okay? Because I always thought in women's basketball, it was a legal move, and in men's basketball, it was not. I don't think that's right. I think the rules are the rules, right? However, in the rule book, it technically does say if you go up for the shot, you can leave that foot. You have a 1-2.
Right, to me,
it is an absolute walk.
That's what that's what I'm finding out, is that apparently the way the rule is written, that you're allowed to do that. But hang on. Here's my question, Nate. How is that not changing your pivot foot? Isn't that changing your pivot foot? Are you allowed to do that now?
Well, technically, when you pick up the ball, right, you have a 1-2 to shoot.
Yeah. And they're just saying that's picking up the ball in
Yes.
a 1-2.
I guess that, yeah.
I don't know, man. I'm just telling you. Every ref in the state of Tennessee was calling that a travel, and I bet they still call that a travel.
See, I do think I would not teach that move simply for the fact that it's a questionable move.
Yeah.
I'm not going to teach a move that ingrains in my players' minds to use it.
Yeah.
And all it takes is one ref, one game to do it. And then they're going to question everything.
Yeah.
You know. So I would never teach it.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. Dude, everybody that replied was like, "Oh, not a travel. Great move. Love it."
Yeah.
I'm just
Well, this is what I would say too, is what I always taught was when I taught a step through, you just have to leave the ground. Like once you step through, even if you pull that right leg off, that ball needs to start going up into your motion. And then if you go off one, then it's one thing.
Then it's right.
But the whole step through, like, I'm about to get up and show you.
Yeah, please.
All right, so the whole step through where you establish it here.
Yep.
And then you go like this.
Right.
And you go up, and then you go up into your shot. That seems like a walk to me.
Yeah, yeah. But if
you establish it with your right foot, go right here, and then go right here, and then start going up into your shot like simultaneously, and then come off one, I don't think people are going to call it. So that's kind of how I taught it. It was super like picky, but
I agree. I agree with you. Also, one last thing all right. Okay. So one last thing. Well, first off, I actually texted Mike Woods that, and he was like, "I'm calling it a travel." Last thing before we get into it, as we speak, the YouTube is getting back uploaded. So by the time this podcast comes out, hopefully all the I think we missed 3 episodes. 70, 73, 74, 75 is not on there. This is 76. They will be up there by the time this podcast comes out. So
good. I didn't even know my screen's been rotating all over the place since we've been talking. So been trying to find the right scenery for myself. I've been getting stuff off the ground while we've been talking. So I'm glad that this one's going to be back up and running.
Yeah, I know you are.
But good. Awesome, man. Well, hey, welcome to the Mind of a Coach podcast. I am super, super, super excited for our guest today. It has been long overdue. Episode, Asa, do you know?
76.
And who was 76?
Philadelphia 76ers is all I got. I don't know. Declaration of Independence, when I don't know. I have no idea. Philadelphia 76ers is all I got. This is a Philly episode.
You don't know who wore 76?
No. Not off the top.
He played for the Sixers. All right. Tallest player to play in the NBA other than Taco Fall.
Oh, was it Mutombo or
White? He was in Space Jam.
Oh, I'm not gonna remember the dude's name right now.
Sean Bradley.
Sean Bradley.
Sean Bradley.
I didn't know. Sean Bradley.
How about that? Our Sean Bradley episode 76. And if I'm not mistaken, Sean Bradley's paralyzed now, isn't he?
I don't know what's up with Sean Bradley these days. I actually looked him up recently because I heard a trivia question, and the trivia question was who are the 4 guys, or the 4 other guys in Space Jam, in the original Space Jam.
Oh, you mean
in the movie? And I
think I got it.
Is he?
You ready? I'm about to hit you. Sean Bradley.
Yeah.
Muggsy.
Yep.
Charles Barkley.
Yep.
Patrick Ewing.
Yeah. The only one I didn't know his name was Sean Bradley. I mean, I knew it was another white dude, but I didn't realize that was Sean Bradley.
I'm pretty excited that I knew that answer.
Good job.
Anyway, hey, episode 76. I'm really excited for our guest. It's been long overdue. Phenomenal guy. He's a great coach. Loves the game of basketball. Has been around some of the best basketball minds. I had a chance to mentor under him for a year, but it's been longer than that. He's someone I look up to a ton. We've had our goods and our bads, and he's just a phenomenal human being. And I'm just so glad that he's in my life, and I'm excited for everybody to get to hear from him.
Oh,
Dun, 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 dun.
Yo,
What's going on?
my headphones work. I'm like technologically impaired.
hey, me too, man. Yeah, that'll work.
I bet. What's good? I've been waiting for this, man.
Yes, man. We have too. We have too. You doing all right?
Well, how are you guys?
Alive and kicking, fantastic, spectacular. Can't complain. All the above.
Beard looks awesome.
Thank you, man. Thank you. You too. You gonna grow it out a little bit? Keep it going.
We'll see. We'll see. Probably. I'm just lazy.
You got the flow. You got the flow.
Oh, I was going to get to that, Asa.
Yeah,
You must not know the program is the flow.
Yeah, I do.
For more reasons than his beautiful hair.
Yeah. Yeah.
How's Roman?
Nah, he's awesome. He's awesome. Well, he's been awesome. He had some shots yesterday, his 4-month shots, which we got a month late. Hopefully that's not frowned upon. Our doctor said it was actually okay. But he got him yesterday, and he's been a little fussy, had some stomach problems today and a little fever, but he'll be all right.
Good. Good.
Yeah, he's been great. How's Miss Avens doing?
She's doing well, man. Everything's good on this end.
Avens Martin.
Avens Martin.
When did y'all get married?
Almost 3 years ago now.
Okay.
Right before I became a head coach.
So that was
holy cow.
wow.
That was in 2020.
It was
Yeah, probably.
It was right before I became a head coach, and this is year 3. So yeah, like 2.5 years.
2.5.
Yeah.
Man.
That's awesome. That's awesome. How's St. Joe treating you?
St. Joe's good. St. Joe.
Yeah, is it getting cold there?
Not yet. Today was nice. Today was like 65.
Oh man. Well, if you think it could get colder, come up to my neck of the woods. Because it is chilly.
Will, you've been to Pikeville, right?
So I've been through Pikeville. When I was in Kentucky, we did a satellite camp in Pikeville.
Okay. What's Pikeville like compared to St. Joe's?
So St. Joe, like surprisingly, is a bigger town than what it feels like. There's like 78,000 people that live in St. Joe.
Okay.
So it's a little bigger, has probably a little more activity going on, but similar.
Got you. Yeah. I tell you, this isn't like a one stoplight town. Like there's
Right.
civilization and stuff here. There's stuff here it's a small little quaint town, I'd say.
Yeah. Are you liking it there?
Dude, I'm liking it, man. I'm liking it. I'm in a different role, different position, different school. So it's growing a little bit. So I'm liking it, dude. I have no complaints whatsoever. The guys have been great, coaches, players. Gotten to know Kelly Wells a little bit. He's been awesome. So everybody's been it's been great, man. It's been great. I really can't complain.
Sorry guys, I'm relocating. We had some dogs barking behind me.
Oh.
Let's see if I can get some lights on in this place. That'll do. All right, sorry.
No, you good. Will, I figure, man, we just get on and start rocking, dude. We just get on and start rocking. I was reading your bio a little bit, and one of the things that stuck out, you were the head of the debate team at
I was.
And where was that again?
At Kentucky.
So have you seen The Great Debaters?
I have.
Man, one of my favorite quotes ever was from that movie. First of all, Denzel's the GOAT, but one of my favorite quotes ever was when the kid was talking to his dad and he was about to leave the house or something, and dad said, "No, wait, what do we do?" And the kid goes, "We do what we have to do what we want to do." And I remember, like, I heard that in the 8th grade, and I put it on like my little Facebook bio or something. Then, like, I remember that, like, that quote has stuck with me.
That's why you were a successful college athlete. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well,
but hey, let's get into Will's story. All right, Will, so let's start from the beginning, right? You play at Battleground Academy, the best high school in Tennessee. There's no doubt about it. And you have some opportunities to play college basketball, and you decide to go to Kentucky. Obviously been a Kentucky fan your whole life, and you have an opportunity to work for John Calipari. Go ahead and start there. What was that experience like, and what went into that decision?
Well, I didn't have many opportunities. I wasn't very good. I wasn't like you at Battleground Academy. I wasn't very good, and I knew that pretty quickly. So I actually had an uncle who was a manager at Vanderbilt for CM Newton. And he grabbed me at the end of my senior year, and he knew I was looking at some smaller NAI schools. And he said, look, if you want to coach, he knew that I wanted to coach. Like, this is a pathway for that maybe you can skip a few steps and you can start your coaching career at 18. And it was probably the best advice that I'd had up to that point. And so decided to go to Kentucky. If I knew what it took, I probably wouldn't have even attempted it. So my naivety kind of was a blessing. Went there, worked all summer. At the end of the summer, and I still have a letter from Coach Gillespie behind my desk. They were like, sorry, man, we don't have a spot for you. And at that point, I was like, man, I made a terrible decision. You know, now I'm stuck in Lexington. I'm not working for the basketball team. I'm not playing anymore. And I kept at it. There was a guy named Bill Kitely who's passed away, but he's a legend at Kentucky. He actually has his jersey hung up because he was the team equipment manager for years and years. And I would get up at 5 a.m. because I heard that he got to the office at 5, and I would just go down to the equipment room and ask if I could help fold towels. And some days they said, get out of the way. And other days I was able to help. And I was able to work again that second summer and got a job. So persistence, naivety a little bit. But there was a time where I thought, man, I made a terrible decision. I'm not playing anymore. I'm not a manager, and I'm just a traditional college student. Like, what am I going to do? So it was a challenging time that freshman year for me, but it was a blessing too, because it taught me, you know, what persistence will do for you.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're on staff, right? So now you're a manager. You're walking through that steps. There's a coaching change. Then you get to experience some pretty big name athletes, and we'll get into one of those guys that has a long eyebrow in a second. But go ahead and walk through that coaching change. What was that like for you?
It's scary, you know, and if you're in this business long enough, you'll go through a few of them, and you're not always on the right side of that. And I've experienced both. I was lucky that Coach Cal decided to retain a few of the managers, and I was one of them. And man, that experience, it changed the entire trajectory of my life, being able to work for Coach Cal and that staff and the players that he brought in and the relationships that I was able to build with those players. Obviously, you know, Coach Cal won a lot of games in those first 3 years, and I was able and blessed to be a part of that. Then we go to Elite Eight with John Wall, Eric Bledsoe, Patrick Patterson, that class. Well, Pat was in a previous class, but that first freshman class was John Wall, Eric Bledsoe, DeMarcus Cousins, Daniel Orton, and then John Hood, who's on my staff right now. Great class, one of the best classes in history. Went to the Elite Eight, got beat by West Virginia, go to the Final Four the next year, and then my senior year we won the national championship. And so just huge blessing, learned a lot through that. But just being around success at that level kind of changed the paradigm in my mind of, you know, what it really took to have success.
Yeah, and you got a lot of connections from those times. And once again, we'll get to one specific connection in a little bit, just because I know how much he means to you. But go ahead and walk me through a couple of your others. You know a guy which they call Worldwide West, and then there's another guy that might be the head coach at Louisville right now. So go ahead and walk me through those specific connections that you just can't get anywhere else.
Well, I'll talk about Kenny Payne. Kenny Payne is, you know, I consider him a mentor. Really, anything that I know about basketball or working hard in this business, hustling in this business, treating people the right way, I got from him. He was in the gym early morning, late at night, always working dudes out. And I was just at his hip, hungry to learn. And so I was in the gym 5 a.m. working out the morning guys. I was in there late at midnight, and I was able to build some rapport because of Coach Payne. Because if Coach Payne was on the road, he'd say, hey, man, get with Will. Will's got you. Will can work you out. And if it wasn't for him, I don't think that I'd have the confidence that I have as a coach, you know, because I think for, you know, both you guys were college basketball players. As a manager, you kind of fight that shadow of, well, you know, I didn't play. Am I going to be respected? Or guys going to, you know, are they going to listen to me on X's and O's? Are they going to listen to me on technique? I didn't really play. And it's kind of a built-in insecurity. And because of Coach Payne kind of giving me that freedom and that autonomy to be able to work guys out, I was able to gain confidence on the floor that I don't think I ever would have had if it wasn't for him. And it just speaks to his character and who he is as a person to take, a manager like me and say, hey, I'm gonna trust you to put this guy through a workout, not just rebound for him. And it gave me a lot of confidence, maybe some false confidence too, but sometimes you need some of that as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think we all need a little bit of false confidence.
I tell people all the time, I'm not arrogant. I'm just delusionally confident.
Hey, man, you got to distort your reality a little bit in this business.
Yeah. Man, what are these conversations like with guys like Kenny Payne? Well, my fault. Keep going. I gotta, keep going. My bad. I didn't mean to interrupt. I don't know if you were done, but I just
no, that's fine, man. I think, and you guys have played at a high level, and you guys been around a lot of successful people. Like, what you learn is that those people are just like everybody else, that have the same struggles, have similar insecurities, face the same challenges. And, getting that perspective, I think, humbles you really quick to be able to be around people that others would consider, not celebrities, but high octane profile people. Yeah. And then you get to see them in their true nature, their strengths and their weaknesses. And, I think everyone at Kentucky did a great job of that, not hiding their weaknesses and being humble and leading through humility. And so it kind of gave me, a really good perspective of what it means if you are able to get to the top and how you should conduct yourself.
Absolutely. All right. So your senior year, you're working with a pretty spectacular freshman. Tell us about your relationship with him and how that blossomed.
Well, so AD was there the entire summer. I always stayed in Lexington over the summer just so that I wouldn't miss anything. Yeah. I had huge FOMO. So I didn't want to miss a camp. I didn't want to miss an opportunity that a coach might need something in the office. So I always stuck around, and we just became buds, like just keeping it real. We became friends. And, he was a inner city kid from Chicago. I'm from Nashville, Tennessee, and we end up liking the same movies and music, and we have a lot in common. But the one thing that we both shared was that he wanted to be the best basketball player in the world. And I had this dream of being the best coach that I could possibly be in the world. And so we had that shared vested interest, and the sweat equity that we put on the court is really what bonded us together. He always wanted to be in the gym to get better. And I was like, man, this is one of the best athletes in the world. I knew that about AD at 18. Everybody did. And so he looked at it as an opportunity to have somebody that would always be on the court with him. I saw it as an opportunity that I could hone in and sharpen my skill set as well. And it grew a bond that, turned into a friendship and something deeper than basketball. And that's what it's about, and I tell our kids all the time, man, being part of a team, there's nothing like that in the world. And I got two guys on my staff right now that played at Kentucky that, I was in the trenches with. That's what it should look like. You were roommates with Asa, right? Mm-hmm. You guys are leading a podcast together. You guys are going to be intertwined for life. Like, that's what's so special about this game. And what's cool for me is I was just a manager. I was wiping up sweat, doing laundry, and I was able to create this authentic relationship with a guy from Chicago, and we became friends. And then, my life changed because of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Definitely an authentic relationship. You guys win a national championship together. Okay. You have some options after season ends. You have a couple different options. What was going through your mind during that time, and where did you choose?
Well, my whole goal was to become a graduate assistant at Kentucky. That was my goal, even when after that first summer I didn't get a job. I mean, I was very hell-bent on becoming a GA. And you and I are similar in that aspect, Nate, is when we put our mind to something, we want to see it to the end. And I actually had that opportunity at the end of my senior year. They offered me a GA spot. I actually accepted it. And then, the relationship with AD just continued to grow and grow. And he asked me to go down and work for him and work him on the court, getting ready for the NBA draft, and then going down with him and kind of assisting him in a managerial type role in New Orleans. And actually turned him down at first. And he gave me an offer I couldn't refuse at the time. And it's funny, I'll go on and on because there's so many life lessons for me in that. I felt like for a long time that I made a mistake and that I should have stayed and been a GA at Kentucky. But I look back now, and if it wasn't for that decision and things in my life that happened that forced me to grow in a lot of areas, I don't think that I'd be where I am today. And so, you know, a lot of people say live with no regrets. And I always thought that was kind of cheesy because I'm like, dang, I got a ton. You know, I've made a lot of mistakes in life. I've done things that I'm not proud of in life. But I look back now and I see, you know, the true meaning of that is that a lot of times mistakes that we make or decisions that we make kind of lead us to the right answer that you wouldn't be able to find if it wasn't for that. And so the experience in New Orleans was phenomenal. Got to go live with my one of my best friends. I got to go to London with the Olympic team because he was competing in the Olympics. Got to experience all that, and I grew a lot as a human being. You know, I was 22 years old. I was just a pup, and he was 18. And we were living together in New Orleans, trying to figure life out too. And so it was a great experience. But ultimately, you know, I missed coaching. I felt like that was my passion and my purpose. I felt like I wanted to get back into that. And so after a year with him in New Orleans, I went to Tulsa and was a graduate assistant.
Hang on. Yeah. Hang on. Hang on. I have a question before we get too far into the stuff. What is it like being at the center? I mean, me and Nate, we were fortunate enough to make it to an NCAA tournament. You know, the country is paying attention, at least, you know, to what is it like being in the dead center of something that the whole country is paying attention to?
It's surreal, you know, and you sit there, and if you're an overthinker like me, you're sitting there and you're trying to be grateful for the experience, and you're trying to feel all the positive emotions, but it's impossible to process it all, you know, and you're working on top of that too. And so as a player, it's different. But for me as a manager, I took my job very, very, very seriously. So I'm trying to make sure that I'm still doing my job and nothing's changing just because, you know, we're in the Elite Eight or the Final Four or the national championship. But the reality is you're aware of those things. You're aware that, you know, you might not get back to this, you know, like all of us strive. We're all, we talked about distorted reality. The three of us probably in the back of our mind are like, man, I'm going to coach in a national championship, multiple. I mean, you know, and you should have that mindset, but you also realize that, man, this is once in a lifetime for a lot of people to be able to be in a Final Four, to be able, even if you're just a manager, to work that game, those games, and to be in those situations. And you try to be present. I think at the time I've come a long way in the practice of being grateful and present. I probably wasn't that aware when I was 21 years old, but you try to practice those things, but it's impossible. People ask me all the time, like, when did it settle in? And I'm 33 years old now. I've been to New Orleans, Tulsa, San Francisco, back to Nashville now, St. Joseph, Missouri. And I don't think that experience has set in yet, you know?
Man, that is
awesome. So, yeah, so you get to Tulsa, right? You're a graduate assistant there, all right? You leave Tulsa, if I'm not mistaken, and you go out to the West Coast, right? Is that the correct is that in chronological order right there?
That's the correct trajectory. So I went to Tulsa. I was a GA for Danny Manning. Danny Manning got the job at Wake Forest. I was not taken to Wake Forest, but I was retained by Frank Haith and his staff, which I was super grateful for. And then Danny's contacts and a guy named Justin Bauman, who's another one of my mentors, who was the ops guy at Tulsa and then Wake Forest. They connected me with Rex Walters, who was the head coach at the University of San Francisco. So I went out there and I was director of ops for Rex Walters.
Awesome. And you met somebody pretty significant in your life during that time. And I might be misspeaking, but something impactful happened during that time period as well. Elaborate on that.
Well, you know, there was a lot that happened in San Francisco in a very short time period. I was there for a year, but it felt like 4 years just in terms of the development of my mind, body, spirit, all those things. And I think I know who you're alluding to, Mr. Sundance Wicks. He was on staff there. And another person that you talk about lasting relationships that you build in this profession. One of my best friends in the whole world. I'm his kid's godfather, you know, and he's somebody that I would trust with my life. And what's funny is that when I first got to San Francisco, I was not rocking with him at all. Like to use the kids lingo, like I was not rocking with him. He had this over gregarious personality and bring your own juice. And, you know, I'm coming from I'm coming from a place where when people are like that outwardly, you kind of have to question their motives and their intentions a little bit. So I unjustly did that with Sundance. I thought it was fake. I thought that there's no way that somebody can be this energetic and bring this much positive energy all the time. And then over the course of the first month, the second month, I was like, man, I never saw this guy down ever, every single day. And, we're not just in the office together. We're going to dinner together. We're hanging out just like staffs do. And I'm like, all the time he's bringing this positive energy and it's authentic. And it challenged me to change how I was. And I think anytime you have a friendship or a relationship where somebody forces you to dive deeper into who you are, to become something better than what you are, who you are, that's where transformation occurs. And that happened with Sundance and then continued to happen.
So it was, so I would say, so you would say, I was going to ask you, what was it that made you, what was the exact kind of thing that made you change your perspective of him? Was it just his day-to-day consistency of being who he was and not wavering?
It was that, but I'll be real with you. Like there was
there a conversation y'all had or something or
so like we're in the office one night and I was trying, he knew that I was trying to coach and he was like, hey man, why don't you help me with a scout, and I thought that he actually wanted my help, but looking back now, like he was trying to mentor me. And we're in the office till like 3 a.m. breaking down a scout for Rex Walters, and it was Sonny doing all the work and me just trying to learn. And all of a sudden, I start talking about some of the struggles that I've had in my life, and he tells me about some of the struggles that he's had, and the not just the mountaintops, but the abyss moments, the valley moments, and the things that we've struggled with. And so then I was able to see him as a real person, and he was able to see me that way too. And I thought, man, this guy has had similar struggles, worse struggles, and he still every single day is able to bring this authentic energy that's not fake, that's extremely real. And he's been able to process these things that he's gone through on a deep spiritual level. And that's where it really changed, like me being impressed with who he was professionally and personally. Yeah. But I think that getting to know him on that deeper level, which, we talk about all the time in our program, like never envy the unscarred. I think that when you sit down and you're able to have a transparent and vulnerable conversation with somebody and you realize like, man, they've got some similar scars, maybe some worse scars than I have, and they've been able to overcome that, you build a connection that's unlike anything else.
Show me a man that's never suffered a scar, and I'll show you a man that's never given his all.
Hey, man. Amen.
Oh my goodness. All right. So you go to Martin Methodist, or I guess, did you go to BGA for a short time after and then Martin Methodist?
Man, you're making my story sound a lot better. Like when you said that I had college opportunities, I didn't have many. I wasn't a very good high school player. I tried hard. I worked hard. We got fired in San Francisco. That, I was there for a year and staff got let go at the end. I kind of stuck around, as the director of ops just to make sure that everything was good for the next staff. But, the writing was on the wall that I wasn't going to be retained there. And, that's the full cycle. We talked about earlier that sometimes you're on the right side, sometimes you're on the wrong side of that when their staff changes. And so I drive back to Nashville, 24-hour drive. And man, there was something that happened to me on that drive. I stopped in the middle of a desert. It was somewhere in New Mexico or Arizona, and I pulled my car over and I just start bawling uncontrollably. And I probably hadn't cried in 3 years. And I got this overwhelming sense of like, Will, you need to be still, and whether you want to look at that from a spiritual perspective or just an emotional, psychological perspective, it was an undeniable sense of like, hey, you need to slow down. I've been trying to chase, strive and strain all these years. And so I took it literal. I went back home, moved back home with my parents. Like, at 22, 23, I'm living with the number 1 overall draft pick. I'm director of ops a few years later, got my own apartment in San Francisco. And now I'm back home living with my parents. And so that was a humbling experience, one, to go through that of literally, having to go full cycle, but also to have, a sense of awareness to listen to whatever that small voice inside of me was saying, hey, be still, and to take that literally. Because a lot of people in my corner were telling me, hey, if you get out, man, you might not ever get back in. You might not ever be able to coach college basketball again. And I was like, man, if that's the case, then that's the case. I had to surrender. And so I started working at BGA. I was the fourth assistant. I was a volunteer assistant, thanks to David Peden. I was helping my mom sell real estate. I wasn't helping much. And I started training kids for free, man. Like, part of that being still voice kind of told me too, like, find out why you got into this thing, because when I got into it, it wasn't about winning national championships or working for number one overall draft picks or climbing a ladder of, okay, I have to be a GA and then I have to become a director of ops and I have to be a D1 assistant, because if I'm not a D1 assistant, then this, that, I was just chasing, striving, and I had it all manufactured in my mind. And, I feel like I gotta find the purpose again, the passion again. And if I don't find it, I need to do something else. So I started training kids for free in Nashville. Met a kid named Keon Johnson, who now plays for the Portland Trailblazers. I think he was a sophomore in high school at the time, and just started training him when I could. And then there's an AAU program, EAB, that they asked me to jump on, and did that for free too. Traveled all around the region, in my Camry, just me, working for free, man, just living off the love. And
I think, hey, hold on real quick. I think everybody should have to do something they love for no money, like right out of college, like at least for a year. Like, I think you should almost have to do that.
Well, it forces you to really look at what the meaning is behind what you're doing, because so many of us are chasing money, salary, position, title, and a lot of times in our business, it's not money, it's the title. A lot of us feel like we have to do this, we have to do that. We start comparing our journeys to other people's journeys and saying, well, this guy's a head coach at Belmont right now, which is Casey. That's a bad example. Wherever, right? And
we can use him.
he did this, he did that, so I have to do that. And the reality is that none of our journeys are the same. And if you don't know what you're doing it for, if you're doing it for a title or you're doing it to be like somebody else, you ain't gonna last in this business, because it's hard. Like, it's hard. It requires sacrifice. And so if you don't have that purpose, that passion, I tell people all the time, man, don't do it. Like, don't do it. It's not worth it. But if you do that, Asa, if you take a year to work for free and find out what the true meaning is, then you really find out if you're about it or not. And when I was the fourth assistant at BGA, training kids for free and driving all over the country in debt to coach high school kids and loving it, man. When I was coaching that AAU team, it's like same feeling I got as a manager working the national championship game. Same feeling I had coaching in the first NCAA tournament in over a decade at Missouri Western as a head coach. Same feeling, no different. You know what I mean? Like, same passion, same energy, wanted to win just as bad, wanted to, dig into those kids' lives and help them transform, build relationships. And that's when I knew. I was like, man, I'm just as excited coaching this game at 8 a.m. in Atlanta, Georgia, in a random gym that no one's at with these 15-year-olds. I was coaching 15U, and I'm loving this just as much as if I was at Kentucky coaching a national championship game. And then it was clear that, look, it doesn't matter if it's college, it doesn't matter if it's high school. I want to help kids grow, but I want to help kids grow through the game of basketball.
Yeah, and it's awesome that you said, be still. And it sounds like you were able to find what you said. What I'm gathering from it is transformational versus transactional.
Absolutely.
And instead of looking at how it could impact you, you were able to fall in love with helping others. And something that probably got you in the first place. I don't want to speak for you, but that seems how you've been talking. But that's incredible. And I do agree. I love the free. You got to do it for free, because my personal opinion is you can do anything. If you love what you do, it doesn't matter what the money is. You'll make enough money because you'll do it really well because you love it.
Yeah.
And whatever that might be, whether that's selling candy bars, I think if you love it, you'll be the best at it. But that's awesome. All right. So real quick, we get to you.
Do we have a timer right here? Is there a timer?
Yeah. So look, do you want to keep, look, man, hey, we're low on funds and resources over here.
Let's keep rolling, bro.
You want to go ahead and end it, Will? Or you want to let this?
No, let's do it. Let's do it in 8 minutes, and then we'll cut off.
Okay.
And then Asa will send us a new link, and we'll just jump right back on. But yeah, hey, we're not getting any money on this podcast, Will. So
we can't afford the $15.99.
Where do I send my donation?
My PayPal. No, I'm kidding.
Training. At Fuel Training.
At Fuel Training. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, so you go to UT Martin. Okay. Somewhere along this line.
Southern. Yeah. UT Southern now.
Yeah. Sorry. And it's not UT Martin. Oh, yeah. It was UT Martin. It was Martin Methodist.
It was Martin Methodist, correct.
Martin Methodist.
Martin. Oh, that's a totally different. Sorry.
Totally different school.
All right. Sorry. You go to Martin Methodist, right? You're there for 2 years, if I'm not mistaken. And then Sundance gets a call and he's the head coach. Or not a call, but he interviews. He's the head coach of Missouri Western, right? What did that conversation look like when he called you, met with you, so on?
One, I was at Martin Methodist for a year, but there was a caveat. So I was working as the director of athletic admissions. That's the only way I could get paid. I wasn't getting paid to be an assistant coach. And that was humbling too, because it was the only way for me to get back in. And I had to, work admissions, and I hated it. I hated working admissions. I hated going to college fairs. And I'll make this a quick story, but it's a prevalent one.
Take your
for
time.
me.
Take your time.
I had to go to a college fair at Good Pasture, and I always tried to have other people go for me, and I just couldn't this time. And there was a table next to mine for 4 straight hours at this college fair, and it was Lyon College, and my now wife was working at Lyon College, and our tables were set up next to each other's. And then we went to another college fair that day, and the same thing. So we've been talking ever since. And so that's the other thing too that's crazy about this business and crazy about this life is when you can humble yourself and just say yes to the opportunities that come before you and kind of surrender. A lot of times life, God, whatever you believe in, has something a lot bigger for you than what your ego thinks that it has for you. And at that time, I felt like, man, I need to be on the court. I need to be coaching. I have to work this admissions job. But I just surrendered to it, and I said yes, and met my wife because of it. But was there for a year. Sundance gets the job. He calls me up, and it was like my car was already packed, man. Like it was, it was a no brainer. Your boy gets a job, and was humbled that he even thought of me, honestly, because this business is so crazy, man. Like we all have so many friends in it, and it's hard getting jobs, So when I found out that he got the job, I honestly didn't think that he was going to give me a call. Like he's connected to so many people, and I didn't think that our relationship was going to just get me in the door. But when he called and he said, look, he told me too. He was like, this first couple of years, like all I want is somebody that I can lose with. And I remember telling him, I'm like, dude, you can get people that have a lot more experience than me, a lot better on the court than me, X's and O's, film, scout, recruiting. And he said, I want you because I know I can lose with you. I know that you're going to have my back. I know you're going to be in the trenches with me. And that's why I need you here. And so it was a no-brainer for me.
That's awesome. And you take over a program that I guess had 6 wins, right? That when Sundance goes in charge, you guys come in with 6 wins. And like you just said, somebody that you can lose with. That didn't last for long, Will. Tell us a little bit about the struggle of it all. And then go ahead and keep rolling into after 2 years, you get the head coaching job and you're where you're at now. But all encompassing, go ahead and get going.
Well, what I learned from that year, and Sonny would say it all the time, is, you got to fight for your culture every day. And culture is an overused word in this business. And a lot of times there's no substance to it. But the culture that Sundance was building was very substantive and very meaningful. And, the one thing that we said every single day is, man, we got to fight for it. And you do. You got to fight for it every single day. You have to hold yourself accountable as a staff, but also the players. And I don't think that I ever personally was pushed that hard to really fight for cultural things within a program. And obviously his energy and who he is as a person helped kind of stem all of that. But we didn't budge. We fought for it every single day, and our guys believed in it. We struggled that first year, but we were a lot better than a lot of people expected us to be. And I tell him all the time, we finished 4th Sonny's second year. That's one of the best coaching jobs like I've not only experienced and been a part of, but that I've ever seen. I mean, he took over a program that was dead last for almost a decade in the MIAA, which is the toughest conference in Division II. And in his second year, we finished fourth. I mean, it was unbelievable.
And it didn't start well. And it didn't start well.
No, we struggled. We were in our own
4-9 or 3-7. It wasn't great to start.
It was bad. We went into Christmas break, and it was just like, man, is this going to be another year where we finish bottom of the league? And then we came back and won all our home games and split a lot of road games, and we were right in the pack for top three, and we ended up finished fourth that year. And I tell him all the time, like, it's unbelievable coaching job by him with what he was able to do. Just the belief system too, because you get caught positively and negatively in your subconscious of this is just the way that it is. And for a long time, the way that it was at Missouri Western was that they had teams that competed and stayed in games, but they were finishing bottom half of the league. And so to flip that mindset too, that we're a team that can finish top half of the league in his second year, unbelievable. He's the best. And I'm always hesitant because I've worked for so many great leaders, and I've learned so much from each one. He's the best leader that I've ever worked for. And I could give my flowers to every coach that I've worked for about what their best strengths were and things like that. He's the best leader. And there's a component to that, multiple components, but it's really who he is as a person and what he believes in, and how he holds himself and everyone else around him accountable. And I think that us finishing so well that year and winning games that we probably shouldn't have, it was because of his leadership and how hard our guys played and believed in that.
100%. I would say the word to use is contagious. His leadership was contagious, and it made everybody want to work as hard as him. It made the players want to play as hard as he was coaching, and it made you work your freaking butt off.
All of us.
You coach that's now. Yeah, but
Nate, was your first year? Was that the 4-9? Y'all started 4-9 and then finished fourth. Was that his second year?
Yeah.
Yeah, Nate was on that staff.
So okay, all right, got you.
Nate was our scout team point guard.
All right, so Will, and I do want to say this because you said I was a part of that staff. I wasn't really. I was just there to hopefully make people smile, is how I view that year. Because I would say my time at Missouri Western was the most humbling experience. Not the most probably, but if I didn't have that experience at Missouri Western, I don't know if I would have known how hard you have to work. And I say you such a positive light for Missouri Western, because going from a player to a coach, it's tough. It's tough because you're used to, I can just get in the gym and I can work hard and I can do this. But coming on staff, you guys had this flow about you guys. Once again, we're going to get to that in a little bit, but that you guys were so connected and you guys were doing such a good job. And so I almost sat back at first and was just trying to learn as much as I could and try to fit in where I could, as people would say, fit in where I could fit in, fit in where I can get in where I can fit in. It was one of those two. And what I learned from that was, and you were such a good mentor to me during that time. I mean, I have so many memories. One of my favorite things you ever told me, because you were very real with me. You weren't like, I'm going to sugarcoat everything. I'll be very honest with you. Now, we had fun too, but you were a mentor in the same light. And being a mentor, you have to be honest. And so you said, you can't wait for a coach to tell you to do something. You got to go do it. And I just remember that. And I was like, so me, Will, I'll get pissed off at first and be like, no, screw you. You don't know. And then give me about 10 minutes, because like you, I'm an overthinker, and I'll think about it. I'm like, okay, well, what does he mean? How can I do this? And how can I do this? And I remember even after leaving, it made me such a better coach, because I was just trying to think about anything and everything that I could to just make the program better. And if I hadn't had conversations like that, or one of the first things you said is like, be very careful about how you speak negatively upon people, because some people don't know. They don't know you like I know you. So when all of a sudden they hear you say something like that, they don't know that you love that person. They might just hear it and say, oh, he must think that A, B, or C is a terrible person or an a-hole or something like that, when in reality, that might not be the case. So you have to be very careful with your tongue. And so I'll always say, if I had never been at Missouri Western, I wouldn't be, one, half the man I hopefully am today, or two, I wouldn't be half the coach I am. So hopefully I can say that in 20 years about right now where I'm sitting, that if I wasn't at Copley, that it's just an experience. But the reason I say all that stuff is because all you've been talking about through your journey is these little bits and pieces that you learned and picked up on along the way. So now you're a head coach, right? You win 18 games as a head assistant your second year at Missouri Western. We finished fourth. We beat Washburn in the first round, which was a great win for a lot of it was a great win. And then so now you get the head coaching job, and it's during COVID. Talk about some of the challenges of that.
First, I got to give you your flowers too on your time at Missouri Western. I mean, there's no way that we would have finished the way that we did without you on staff. And I thought you did an unbelievable job transitioning. It's always hard, and I can't relate and I can't be empathetic because I was a student assistant. I was a manager. You did a great job of transitioning from player to coach, and it didn't take you very long to transition into that, which I think is probably former players. That's probably the hardest part is learning that I'm not a player anymore. I'm a coach. I'm still similar age to these guys, so I need to leverage that relationship that I can build that maybe the staff can't. But now I'm a coach more so than a player. And I will say this, Asa, like this dude, the best scout team point guard in the country, D1, D2.
I already know he had to be.
And what was so cool and what I think probably made you a great coach, I don't know, is that towards the end of the year, you learned how to be the scout team point guard and coach at the same time, which is very hard because you're leading the scout team and you're trying to win because you're super competitive, but you're sitting there telling guys, teaching while you're blowing past them, like, hey, you need to change your technique here. And I'm not gonna bust you. I'm not gonna bink you up like I just did. You know what I mean? And I thought you did a tremendous job of that, but there's nobody that cares deeper than you. And I think that me and Sonny, with our personality, sometimes we can come off a certain way, and the guys knew how much they were loved and cared for because of what you brought every single day. And so I'll always be grateful for that. And then one quick story is my favorite story with you is that you and I were together when the world got shut down. So, when COVID shut down, it's like, the East Coast and the West Coast, anytime something happens, they're the first, and they shut down, and then it kind of works inland, and we're in the Midwest. So no one knew what COVID was or what was going on, but everything's being shut down. Tournaments are being shut down. And me and Nate are like, well, there's a high school tournament in Kansas and they're still playing. Like, let's get in the car and go. And literally we get into the gym and they haven't even played a half, have they? Like, it's the first half of the game and they come on the intercom and they're like, everybody evacuate. And we get in the car and Nate's like, what's going on? Is this the apocalypse? Like,
I vividly remember that happening with y'all too, because I think I FaceTime with Nate when he was on the way or at the game, and then like I saw him he drove home not long
just
after.
Went to Wichita like either the day before or the week before, right?
Yeah. So I'll always remember that moment with you. But head coach, man, you learn so much. Like everyone says, it's so cliche, but you don't know until you move over those 17 inches, right? And it's so true. I think that the thing I've struggled with the most is understanding the levity of every decision that you make. And a lot of times you can obsess over that if you're wired the way you and I are, Nate, and I'm sure Asa, you're the same way. When you care on a deep level, not just about the internal things, but externally too. You want to be viewed as somebody that is making good decisions and pushing the needle forward for your program and for your players and for the administration. And it can be overwhelming. It can be consuming to realize that, man, every decision that I make, it impacts my staff, it impacts my players. And then you go full cycle of a deeper level of surrender, right? Of, okay, yes, I'm leading a program and I have to be super aware about the decisions I make. But at the end of the day, like it's not about me, it's about these players, it's about my staff. And if I have the right motives and intentions, I have to lead with that. I have to lead with doing the best that I can and surrendering the outcome to something bigger than me, whatever you believe in. We talk about flow in our program, but something that's bigger than yourself. And so I think that's been the biggest challenge is dealing with that ego a little bit, like on a deeper level. A lot of people think about ego is like you think that you're better than other people, but on a deeper level, it's obsessing over things that are internal and that you think you have control over that, 9 times out of 10, you don't, that it's a group effort, or it's really out of your control and you're just there to guide it. And so, trying to constantly kill that ego every single day and say, look, I'm going to take my job seriously. I'm going to pour my heart into it. But at the end of the day, I got a staff and I got an administration and I got players that are helping me through this. We're working together.
Yeah, that's awesome. And actually, the funny thing is, I'm sure you've read it. I know you love reading. Have you ever read Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink and Leif Laban?
Yeah.
All right. Literally the chapter I just read is Check Your Ego. So I was perfect right there. But we are going to backtrack just a little bit. You mentioned flow. I want to go ahead and get into flow. What is flow to you, and how is it so important with your life and your program?
Flow was that moment in the desert for me when I was crying uncontrollably, and I had this sense of, you need to be still and you need to surrender and you need to stop trying to manufacture everything in your life. You need to stop striving and you need to stop straining. And, for me, it was more of a deeper spiritual understanding, but, you could break it down psychologically as just getting over yourself, but like you all just said. And when I did that over the course of the next few years, when I was able to surrender, all these things started happening in my life, internally and externally, meeting certain people, relationships that I built, going from a place of depression to going to a place of fulfillment and peace when I was able to surrender. And so I'm reading all these books about metaphysics and getting deep into some psychiatry and Carl Jung and Joseph Campbell and Michael Singer. And this concept of the zone or flow, this state where you're outside of your thinking mind, I started to really dive deep into what that looked like, because I felt like I had that experience in the desert, but I wanted to be able to qualify and quantify that. And I was able to read about this concept of getting to a state where you're shutting out the thinking mind. And in basketball, you're in the zone. Both of you guys played college basketball and were really good high school basketball players. You had I was a bad high school player, and I had some games where I felt like I was in the zone. And when people ask you after the game, like, man, how'd you hit that shot? What were you thinking? You're like, I wasn't thinking anything. I was just in the zone. I was in the zone. Well, what is that? And so for us, we call that flow, and it's not just on the court, but it's in life too. I truly believe that if you can get outside of the thinking brain and you can get into something deeper inside of yourself, and then you can expand that to an entire team or a community, you can eliminate the anxieties from the mind, the depression, the fear, all those things that your mind over and over again, and you can get into a state of zone, or you can get into a state of flow that we talk about. And then because of Sundance, I had to break it down into an acronym. So,
yeah, absolutely.
But it's prevalent too. I think that we talk about faith, love, ownership, and work. I tell the guys all the time, like, if you're able to check your faith, your love, your ownership, and your work, and how it pertains to who you are as a person, but also what you're bringing to the table to this team, that's going to allow yourself to get out of that thinking anxious mind. If you can say, okay, my faith is right, my love for myself, my love for my teammates, that's in check. My ownership, I'm taking extreme ownership and accountability, and I'm working my tail off. Then you don't have to worry about the stressors. You don't have to second guess. And then you put yourself in this state where you can be in flow, or you can be in the zone. And I don't think that it has to be just that one game at Lipscomb, or that one game where you went off for 30 points and you're like, man, I have no idea what was going on. I think that if we work at it and we do the work, and that's what meditation is all about, yoga, stuff like that, I think that we can attain that in our regular life. And so that's what we strive for. It's not perfect. Every day we presents its challenges, but we try to strive towards that so that we can get out of our thinking mind on the court and in the community and as people.
That's awesome.
There's nothing like being in the zone, man. It is. Somebody was asking. We had somebody, having your meetings, your yearly meetings when school starts, your mental health meetings, title, all that. When one dude came in, and he was asking us, like, what we love about the game, and I thought he was just going to ask the players, but he asked us, and like the only thing that could come to mind, I was like, it's a beautiful game. And you kept mentioning like having a spiritual experience with getting in your flow, and you said flow. I thought of rhythm, and I love music. Like, I think music is one of the most, I think it's one of the best spiritual experiences you can have through music. And to me, basketball and music is so synonymous. They're so synonymous. And like even, basketball is a game of rhythm. And if you can just bring that rhythm, bring that rhythm to your team, to the people you're around, be contagious. Man, I don't know. I put that connection together. Because to me, basketball and then over in life too, it's a rhythm. Like it's a rhythm, man, and it can be contagious and and a spiritual experience all in one.
Well, it's the same thing. Like if you have a song that you love and you're going down and you roll the windows down, you sing that whole song, like whether you're a good singer or not, like in tone, on beat, and you're enjoying it. And the whole song will go by and you'll forget the fact that you were even singing. You don't even know that you remembered the words. Like you're not sitting there thinking about what the next verse is. You're just singing it, man. You're in it. And that's a great analogy. It's a great metaphor.
That's perfect, man.
So this ties along to flow, and you did hit on some of it, but your spirituality is a big part of who you are. Touch a little bit about that, and why is God so important to you?
Yeah, and I'm somebody that I've come full circle, man. Like I've had my moments of doubts and fears and times where I didn't know what I believed in, much less God. And so my journey has kind of forced me in that state of surrender to believe in something bigger than myself. And I tell people all the time, like, if you don't believe what I believe or someone else believes, like that's great. Like, but believe in something, like go on the worthy journey of striving for something internally that's bigger than yourself. Right. Which sounds like a paradox. Like you have to go within to find something that's bigger than yourself. And so, I believe that if you do that, you're going to find it. You're going to find that death of ego. You're going to find that passion for something that requires something bigger than yourself. And so, for me in my journey, God has been such a huge piece, but I tell people all the time, man, like believe in something that's bigger than you, right? Mm-hmm. Like when we talk about flow in our program, I'm like, the team right now is a higher power than yourself, like the team is. And if you can surrender to that and understand that it's not about what you're feeling today, it's not about what's going on in your life. You're tired, you're hurt, you're sad, you're mopey, but you know that you got to bring it for somebody else. You're sacrificing, how you're feeling in the moment for something that's bigger than you, knowing that you're going to be able to experience something greater than you ever would be able to experience on your own. And like to me, that's synonymous with spirituality. And it's a huge part of how I try to conduct myself on a daily basis, how I try to humble myself daily. And if I can believe in something that's bigger than me and get outside of my own thinking, selfish brain, typically a lot of beauty occurs in my life. It's how I met my wife. It's how I became the head coach. All the deep relationships that I have in my life come from that, sacrificing, my own self-interest for something that's bigger than me. And I think that's what it's about. And if on that journey, you're able to experience some things that you can't describe, good. Search that too, and a lot of times it starts in the cave. It starts in that desert, the proverbial desert, whatever that is for you, in that moment of weakness that becomes your biggest strength. I think that I look back and a lot of perceived weaknesses in my life have turned into some of my greatest strengths when, I made it about something bigger than me.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, that was beautiful. I couldn't have had you say it any better. No way. But all right, a couple more questions and we'll get into rapid fire. But what is one piece of advice that Will Martin, looking at me in this screen right now, would give senior year Will Martin at Kentucky? The best piece of advice he would give him. And counter that, what is the worst piece of advice you'd give him?
Jeez. The best piece of advice would be to surrender. And at the time, if I told 21-year-old, 22-year-old Will to surrender, he would have no idea what I was talking about. The worst advice that I could give him is to believe the voices in his head.
Go off that.
You want me to expand? We talk about flow and getting outside of the thinking mind. I think a lot of times what gets us in trouble is that we listen to the negative self-talk, especially us in athletics. You know, people look at us like we have, especially you players, you know, guys that played, like you feel like they have this false bravado and all this confidence. But really, a lot of times we're listening to that negative self-talk that you're not good enough, you're never going to make it. You're going to be viewed a certain way if you continue. You know, I listen to a lot of those voices, and I still do. But I hope I have a little bit better awareness to shut those voices off, and again, believe in something that's bigger than myself when that happens. So, I would tell Senior Will at Kentucky, man, stop listening to the negative voices. Believe in something that's bigger than yourself.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful.
Perfect. All right, Will, I got one more, and it's from something that I touched on way earlier because Nate abruptly started the show on us. I genuinely want to ask you about the debate team that you were the captain of, and like what you learned from it, and like how it helped you prepare to like be able to talk, you know, to your players, to an administration, like just what, because now nobody can talk to anybody, and you know, God forbid you have like an argument. Now you can't even debate anymore because everybody just, you know, they hear one thing and then boom, it's just they, you know, you're put in this box. Seriously, what did the debate team teach you? What are some things that we could take away from learning about the art of debating?
I love that you asked that question because it's, you know, no one would guess that I was on the debate team. People that know me and then people that just kind of know my story. Objectivity is what I learned. No matter, because when you're on the debate team, you're given a case and you're told which side that you have to argue. And so regardless of what you believe, like a lot of times I'd be given a case where morally I disagreed with what I had to argue, but I had to get to a place where I could competently make a case for that. And I would have to dig so deep in my mind and research to actually view things the way somebody that truly believed that would believe it so that I could make a valid case. And it forced me to be a lot more objective in my life. And since being on the debate team, I do that, man, whether it's, now I don't want to get too deep here, or not deep, but I don't want to get in any trouble, but whether it's religion, if it's politics, if it's anything socially, culturally, like I constantly try to take a stance of objectivity and empathy to say, why does this person believe what they believe? And should I start to maybe have a paradigm shift in my own mind because this is what I was always taught, or this is what I just believe because I believe it? Like, how can I restructure, you know, my mind to see things on their level? And typically what happens is that there's middle ground, right? Like typically you're able to see things from someone else's perspective, and then you're able to grasp, you know, empathy and understand where people are coming from. And then you're able to say, okay, like I can see that, you know, I can see that. And then you're able to understand people on a deeper level.
I cannot wait for you to listen to the beginning of this episode because I said something so similar to Nathan about me and George, how when you talk to people, when you get past the surface, you really find out that you have way much more in common with somebody than you do different, right?
Bro, we all are.
We all of it, man. And I'm so glad you said that because I think there's so many conversations that people do not know how to have, and they don't know how to approach certain people because they there's no nuance and there's no objectivity, like you said. That's a perfect word for it, man. And when I read that you were part of the debate team, I was like, honestly, I wish I would have done that. Like, I wish I would have been on some sort of debate team. And there were a couple of psychology classes that I took, especially like in high school, where I had to do that exact thing where if you see your side of the argument, then you have to see the other person's side of the argument.
And I do agree. I do agree, Asa. You definitely should have been on a debate team because Asa, I know that if I push the right buttons, Asa is going to start yelling, and right as you yell, you lose an argument, period. That's just how that's how debate goes. Tell me if
there's like 2 buttons that I yell at. It's only like 2.
My wife doesn't like it because I'm always playing devil's advocate, you know, and so my wife is always like, you always just going to play devil's advocate. But, you know, I think that's a gift too. I try to hire a staff that's constantly going to play devil's advocate so that we can all see things from a different perspective. But being on the debate team, I haven't said this to many people, but it's true. Like we went to our first regional that put us into nationals, and we were in a regional championship, and I was on this team of people that were a lot smarter than me, a lot smarter. I think my ADHD probably put me on the debate team. I was in a philosophy class and I just kept arguing with the philosophy teacher. And one day after class, he was like, you got to be on the debate team. And I had to give the leading argument in the championship round against a pre-law student from North Carolina. And I was like, there's no way and we ended up winning. And that moment, man, that victory for me is right up there with the national championship game.
That's amazing.
Really is.
That is absolutely amazing.
That's awesome.
All right, man. Well, hey, we like to finish up with some rapid fire. Are you cool with doing that?
Let's go.
All right, and Nate, I got my sheet back up and running, so I'm
There you
okay.
go, baby.
Yeah. All right. Last technical.
Never
gotten a technical.
No, my staff has. Ty Danielson.
Wow. Good for you. Not an AAU or nothing.
Never gotten a technical.
Wow. That's awesome. Okay, so never been kicked out of a game. Did you ever dunk a basketball on a 10-foot rim?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Okay, good.
Hold up. Are you still dunking a basketball on a 10-foot rim?
I haven't tried in probably a year. Messed up knees, messed up back, but yeah,
don't tell me that.
I could get up there a little bit.
Are you CrossFitting?
I'm trying to get back into it. I had a lower back issue, so
Stop deadlifting.
All right. You are up.
We'll never do that.
You are up 3 at the end of the game. Did you foul or let it play out?
So in the past, I would foul, but my experience as a head coach, I'm playing it out.
Oh, interesting.
So I would foul in the past because Coach Cal was always big on that, because national championship game against Kansas, they didn't foul. Mario Chalmers hits the 3, they go into overtime and they lose.
Yep.
But I've always, like all of us, we over obsess, and that's always been my question analytically. And analytics show that it's really about 50-50. And honestly, like in the NBA, at least, you're better off not fouling. So this is why I say no. Now, I've learned as a head coach, my mind goes to places that it never went as an assistant, which can get dark at times. If I put the game in the ref's hands and it's a 3-point game and guy throws it up, right, and they call a foul and they decide to count it, and somehow miraculously it goes down, it's a 4-point play and we lose the game. Or we don't box out and maybe the guy shoves us in the back and the ref misses it, but he misses the second free throw. We get shoved in the back. There's 1.2 seconds on the clock and they tip it in and then we lose. So I'm going to say, man, a 3, we tie, we go to overtime. If we play good defense, then we're not in that position. But if we try to foul, we put ourselves in a position that we can lose the game.
Well said. I respect that answer. All right, you leaving your best player in with 2 fouls in the first half?
Man, I've gotten. It's interesting you asked me that. Like, I get flack for that from some people. I always take them out. That was a Sundance Wicks rule, and I've stuck with that. Looking back at some games last year, we might have been able to win some games. You never know, but had a really good player that kept getting in that situation, and I would take him out. And I look back now, and I actually was talking to the staff about that earlier this week on, hey, do we want to change our philosophy? And in certain situations, keep a guy in if he picks up his second. But right now, that's what we do. If you get your second foul, you're out for the rest of the half.
Wow. All right, cool. Go for the tie, go for the win.
What situation?
You're on the road. It's middle of conference,
Okay, you're on the road.
Give Nate.
All right, you're on the road. You were up 15. Now it's a tie game. Or now you're down 2. With
I'm going for the
10 seconds left in the game.
I'm going for the tie, because if we're down 15, then we have all the momentum and we're probably going to get them in overtime. So I'm going for the tie in that scenario.
Okay. All right, now you're winning. So that was a home scenario, really. Now you're winning. It's on the road, or you're winning by 15. They've stormed back in 4 minutes, 2-point game with 10 seconds left. You're down.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw up an action to try to get my best shooter a look. And if we're able to get that off, then, great. If not, there's going to be probably 5 different reads within that to try to get a 2-point play. Yeah. I'm not going to try to draw up an action that gets us 2 opportunities to shoot a 3. I'm going to draw something up for Reese Glover from Tennessee, by the way. Yeah. And if the defense falls asleep and they go under, or he's able to get some space and he gets that shot, I'm telling him shoot it, because that's probably the best shot that we're going to get. If it's not open, we're probably running some type of slip or some type of weak side action that tries to get us a shot at the basket.
Gotcha. All right, casual or professional on the sidelines?
Both. So I like suits. It's probably a shadowy insecurity of mine. Like, as a manager, I always wanted to work up to a level to where I could wear the suit. And so I'll always ask on the road if the coach is going to wear a suit or if it's going to be casual. And on the road, if they're casual, I'll go casual because I'm not trying to, but at home, I always wear a suit.
Gotcha. I like that. I like that. I like that idea right there. All right. Early morning practice or evening or night practice?
So I'm not an early morning guy, but I like early morning practice. So
Gotcha.
anytime we can go at 6 a.m. and get the guys in, and then I have the rest of the day to do my work, I prefer that. But I'm not a morning guy, so that's a paradigm. It's a dichotomy.
Yeah.
The learned morning guy.
Yeah.
Outside of the world of basketball, what would you be doing?
Man, if I wasn't coaching, I'd probably be like in the Himalayan mountains trying to be a monk or something like that before I met my wife. I've become over obsessive. Like if I'm not coaching, I'm watching. Like I'm watching Euro basketball. I'm watching film till 2 or 3 a.m.
Yeah.
I probably need to have more of a work-life balance. When Nate was here, we would work out. They'd run 4 miles and then come in and power clean 250 pounds. And so, I like to go to CrossFit and stay active.
Yeah. I like that.
Very generous on the weight selection there, but I appreciate it.
What's your handicap in golf?
I don't play. I need to learn. Yeah, I'm terrible.
Oh, we gotta get you on the links at some point.
We're gonna have to do a little meetup.
Look, hey, when you going down
this upcoming year,
I was just about to say Final Four. We're gonna have a little golf outing.
Mind of a coach.
Course with us.
Come on,
let's go.
Should every team make the conference tournament?
Oh man, depends on the conference and the amount of teams.
Yeah.
Look, the debate team and me, you see my answers are never straightforward.
That's perfect.
If you have like a 10 team conference, everybody should make it. But like if you have a 14, 15 team conference, like you're gonna have to cut it at some point.
Yeah. All right, last one. LeBron or Jordan?
Jordan. Yeah, I get into this argument with our kids all the time, but I will say like Jordan's got a chance to be the greatest of all time for sure. And he's definitely in that, which by the way, I hate that argument anyways, because it's different eras and stuff like that. But
yeah.
These kids today, man, they don't understand just what Michael Jordan brought to the game. Michael Jordan could play in any era, including our era right now. And you can't say that about a lot of athletes. So I'm going with Michael.
We'll leave it at that.
Don't tell AD.
We'll leave it at that. We'll leave it at that, man.
All right. Well, AD or Jordan?
I'm taking AD.
Yeah, there you go.
That's perfect.
I don't know what y'all are posting out there, man. Y'all are going to do little short clips, and if this is the one, I'm going AD.
That is hilarious, man. Well, Nate, you got anything, man? That's it, man. That is it.
Yeah, one, I'm just so thankful that I have you back in my life. It's been too long. 2 years. We've been through some stuff, but honestly, can call you one of my mentors, somebody I look up to greatly, not just in the basketball realm, but in the spiritual realm as well, and just as a brother. So I'm so glad that you came on. It's been long overdue, but this is always the question, but I'm going to go ahead and ask it. Where can people find you? Besides like St. Joseph, Missouri, like where can they find you on social media?
I got my Facebook hacked like a year ago, and I was like, man, I'm done with this stuff. And so I'm off Facebook and Instagram, but I'm on Twitter a lot at Coach W Martin. You can find me there. Hit me up on my cell. I love when coaches or people even outside of the coaching realm hit me up and want to talk about whether it's spirituality or stillness or basketball leadership, X's and O's. Like I love it because typically I walk away learning more from whoever reached out to me. So DM me on Twitter. I'll give you my cell phone number. I love it, man. I'm a geek when it comes to stuff like that.
Yeah, perfect. All right, man. For those listening, you can find myself on Twitter at Coach Aces Page. You can find me on Instagram at The Aces Page. You can find Nathan on Instagram and Twitter at Coach Nate Moran. And you can find Mind of a Coach on Instagram at Mind of a Coach. And you can find us on Twitter at Mind of a Coach Pod. Will Martin, Coach, appreciate it, man. It was an absolute pleasure talking to you.
Hey, man. Love you, dudes.
Love you. Really, man. Have a good one.
pillars of the Dharma, good people get down. Free candy for the masses, sweet with stereo sound. Like the Vedas and the Gitas in the breakbeat tune. Automator on the fader, corner shop with the boom. Slapping hands with my brothers as we rise to the sun. Les enfants feel the rhythm of the rhymers you stone.